Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Box. The only opinion that matters. Right here, I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike's fired up today. Along with my partner, Brian the Ranger Attard, here to talk to you about another quality special that you just can't get enough of. Today, we're going to talk about NHL free agency, and I'll tell you what, we've seen some movement. We've seen some stuff blow up in our face, but that's okay because we're here and you guys are there. Stamkos, I actually was a little bit kind of semi-right with that. I like to say that. Just for the fact that he stayed in Florida. I can't believe Tampa, what was it, $8.5 million a year?
$8.5 million a year.
$8.5 million a year to keep Steven Stamkos. Now, it's probably a good deal for Tampa, keeping the chemistry a little bit the same, get him back in the flow. But, again, with these injuries, I don't know about Stamkos.
We mentioned this after they had lost to Pittsburgh. I don't think it's long-term positive for the team. I mean, he's a great player, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you've got these young guys that are going to come due for contracts, and you may end up in a situation kind of like Chicago is in every other year, in that they're constantly getting rid of players that they can't pay anymore. And you keep restocking the cupboard, and I understand that entirely, but the money only goes around. I mean, they're going to have to trade Ben Bishop now, almost absolutely, recoup some of that money. But again, we talked about, and Hedman got a long-term deal as well. Yeah. But you still have kids. Kucherov's not signed yet. You still have guys that are going to need money, and there's only so much money to go around. I don't know that there's necessarily long-term good for Tampa.
And some of these deals out there. I mean, I know we're going to have another special about the NBA, and that's going to be a throw-up special because some of those contracts in that league are ridiculous. But the NHL is not as high, but some of these guys that got big deals, I mean, Oposo, what can you say about him? I think it's a decent deal. 7 years, $42 million. The guy's a solid player. Although he did go to Buffalo, he'll probably never win a cup. But, you know, hey, you get $43 million thrown at you. I'll go wherever you want me to.
Right.
Milan Lucic going from the Kings to Edmonton. 7 years, $42 million. That's interesting.
Well, so the interesting part about that is it seems like they traded Taylor Hall to New Jersey for Adam Larson.
Which is a hose job. I can't believe New Jersey pulled that off. That's unbelievable.
Very, very, very terrible deal. Really not sure what Chiarelli's doing up there.
That's why Edmonton sucks. But
that's why they don't make the play. This is why you don't make the playoffs.
Exactly.
All
and
the
they
time.
have #1 picks every freaking year. Every year.
Yeah. So you get some of this money back, you know, from the difference between Hall and Larson, and you go get a guy like Lucic. And Lucic said, "Hey, I want to go play with Connor McDavid." I can absolutely respect that. You give a 28-year-old 7 years. They call it silly season for a reason. Yeah. I mean, you look at some of these deals. I mean, to me, some of the more egregious ones. The Islanders giving 7 years and $5.5 million a year to Andrew Ladd.
Ladd.
I don't dislike Andrew Ladd, but he's been on the decline now for a couple of years. For one, it's a similar. Oposo left to go to Buffalo for $500,000 a year more. Oposo's 2 years younger, got much more in front of him than a guy like Ladd does. To me, like, could you just give the money to Oposo and keep your chemistry together? I just didn't understand that.
Besides being 30 years old, he's not even worth that kind of money. That's just crazy money. Yeah, Dave Backus going from St. Louis to Boston, 5 year, $30 million. I mean, he just, you know, James Reimer. Or James Reimer?
Reimer, yeah.
Reimer, sorry about that. I butchered the NHL. It's a shame. James Reimer going from San Jose to Florida, 5 years, $17 million. For a backup role, folks. That's right. You're paying a backup goal. Isn't this like Dallas? We talked about this.
2 goalies. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
a lot of money locked up there.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. What are some of the deals? Some of the deals are ridiculous out there.
The Backus thing to me, you know what it's indicative of? These GMs are not looking at years 4 and 5 of these deals. They're looking at years 1 and 2 because they may not be around for years 4 and 5 of these deals. I mean, again, the Backus one to me is just, how can you give a 32-year-old guy a 6-year deal? I mean, those last years are going to be just terribly awful. You know, Troy Brouwer going back to Alberta to play in Calgary. I mean, again, some of these cities have trouble attracting free agents, so you have to kind of pay a little more than maybe you would like to. You know, I kind of get that, but, you know, I didn't dislike at all Eric Staal going to the Wild. I mean, he's not the player that he once was, but he's not getting paid like it either. It's a 3-year deal. He's getting about $3.5 a year. Heard he was originally looking for 6. That was never going to happen.
Yeah, 31 years old. I mean, that's great for him. I mean, good for him. He can get it.
Yeah. Vancouver with Louis Eriksson, and I know that they're going to slot him in with the Sedins. He's played with them internationally, but again, you're signing a 30-year-old guy to a 6-year deal. When exactly do you plan to rebuild in Vancouver? I mean, that's a team that's not good. They have a lot of holes all over the place, have made some terrible deals and some really not great drafting. You throw money at Eriksson for what? Like, what are you trying to accomplish right now? The Franz Nielsen deal to Detroit.
I did see that, yeah.
I'm not in love with it from a term standpoint, but I think he fits an exact need. They needed a center. He was probably the best one on the market, unless if you take Backus out. Again, Backus a little more different type of player.
I agree, but on the flip side, you're talking about a 32-year-old guy going there, and here's
No,
Detroit again, getting older. They gotta make. I know. Listen, I know you got to get people in the seats, and I know you got to start winning a little bit. But you keep getting older. One of these times, they're going to hit a wall, and they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And it's going to take them 3 or 4, or maybe 2 or 3 to get back to what they are. And they got to get young. You got to get young in the NHL anymore. It's just the way it's going.
No, questionable signing for me, a local boy, Dale Weiss signing with the Flyers.
Yeah. Yep.
He's coming off a career-high 14 goals last year. He never scored more than 10 prior to this.
Yep.
He gets a deal, a 4-year deal, getting about $2.35 roughly a year. The money's not crazy, but for what the Flyers, I think, were looking for, which is more of a scoring-type winger, I don't think Dale Weiss is that at all.
They passed over to, actually, 3 scoring guys in the draft they could have had a possibility of. And you know this signing is only because of the money issues. I mean, they're still trying to recover from the Holmgren error about 2 years ago. Hextall's still trying to clean up. Getting rid of Lecavalier was a good move last year, but you know what, folks? If he retires, they're only getting $2.5 million off the books, so they're going to be strapped for cash right now. I mean, Racco Gudas, we talked about before the show. You're bringing this guy in, okay, maybe there's some defensemen out there you couldn't get. You bring this guy in because he's been in the system, but you got guys in the minor leagues that need to come up here. Profilov, you got all these guys that can come up and be solid defensemen for you. You got to bring them up. You can't just keep signing older guys like this, veteran guys.
Well, I mean, from their standpoint, I mean, again, he does have some value as a commodity, and I do understand that.
He had a good second half of the year.
They've been drafting defensemen now for a couple of years. Exactly. I mean, this is what they've really focused on in the draft. Yeah. So the more you put guys in front of them, that's less opportunity for these guys to get up there and play. I was not a fan of the Gudas signing myself. And one thing to go back to Stamkos, you mentioned early on, $8.5 million compared to I think what we thought he would get on the open market.
Oh, it's a steal.
It is.
It's a steal.
I'm not upset at the money from Tampa's side. I'm just looking at them from the standpoint of what do you do now to keep your players. But Tampa's got a great advantage in that there is no state tax in Florida, so. You compare that to what he would have had to make in a New York or a Toronto or an LA or something.
That's true.
You kind of
got one of the reasons why.
You kind of got to account for that. I mean, he would have to make maybe 9.5 to equal the same after tax in New York. So, good for him if he's happy there. That's great.
It's definitely risk reward. They're taking a risk. I mean, he gets hurt again or he injured for a long period of time. They're gonna have fan base to deal with that's dealt with this last year.
Sure.
So
full no move. I mean, no
exactly.
That's par for the course in these big deals.
Yep.
Interesting thing to take a look at too. Some of the deals that were in that lower dollar amount, those like $2 to $3, $5 million a year deals. Some of these were 2-year deals, and I think that was done with a really, really specific reason in mind. As you know, the expansion draft next year, when the Vegas team comes in, you have to expose X amount of players who have played. I believe the number is 70 games the year before, something like that. So you look at a guy like Lee Stepniak, who went to Carolina, a guy like Michael Grabner, signed by the Rangers, Chris Stewart in Minnesota. These are guys where, again, the money's not a problem at all, but it was a 2-year deal where maybe they probably warranted a 1-year deal.
Or had the team option.
Yeah, but you give yourself the ability now to expose these guys in the expansion draft and keep more of the guys you want to keep. I think it's an interesting dichotomy there. As far as a bad signing?
Well, I mean, getting back to you talk about Detroit and the older players. I mean, they just signed Steve Ott. Okay, Steve Ott. Okay, might be okay player for what they're looking for. He's 33 years old. Stop signing older players. You got to get some guys in that are anywhere from 27 to 30 years old, decent players. Detroit just brings in a ton of players, but they're low value. And this is what Detroit is. They piecemeal a team together all the time.
Well, I think for them, they really thought they had a shot at Stamkos. I think they were gearing up for it.
And they geared up, and when they missed them, they went this route. And that's not a good way to go.
I think it speaks a lot to what's going on in the league the last couple of days. That we've gotten this far in the show today. Haven't discussed the PK Subban for Shea Weber trade.
That is
unbelievable.
You know what? In hindsight, looking at that, I just almost drove off the road when I saw that. But if you look at the deal, it's good for both teams. It really is. It's just a matter of the change of scenery now. It really is. I think Subban adds a lot to the Predators now. Well, without a doubt, he does. And Weber, big shot. Going to Montreal. Hey.
So I never understood why Montreal and the management there never got on board with PK Subban. Top 5 defenseman in the league, does everything you could ask for. Yeah. I'm not taking a shot against Shea Weber. Shea Weber's 2 years older. He signed for 10 years. If you remember, the Flyers signed him to that really huge offer sheet.
Yeah, and the Predators matched it.
The Predators matched it, and this is the deal. I think the Predators got way better here. And it's not a shot at Shea Weber. He's an older defenseman. He's slower in a game that is getting more quick. The weird thing in Montreal is I think the Subban thing was more of like a locker room thing, like they label him a cancer and things like that. Yeah. And fine, I'm not going to question you there. But then you go sign Alexander Radulov.
Yeah, that's.
What do you?
I don't understand that.
I mean, I just don't. I don't know what you're trying to do there.
You talk about locker room. I mean, Montreal. This could be a trend because if you remember back in the day, people that are a little bit older and stuff. Patrick Waugh. Big issues with Montreal, and that's the reason why he left. And there's a guy who's a Hall of Famer, who's a guy who shut his mouth, played his ass off, been to multiple All-Star games, did what he had to do, and basically came out and told the coach, I'll never play for you again, on the bench in a game.
I remember that.
And left and went to Colorado and won a cup. So, I mean, it could be a thing with Montreal, but like Brian said, I think PK Subban for Predators is a solid deal. And I think Shea Weber, once he gets equipped to Montreal, I think he'll be fine too, up there. But that's, you look at that trade in the beginning, like, wow. What was going on?
Well, I mean, guys of that stature don't get moved that often.
No.
I mean, that's part of, I think, the shock of the whole thing.
Right, and you're right, the PK Subban, I mean, I think it was a locker room thing.
Yeah,
as well.
but even Mark Bergevin said in interviews after free agency, or at least on day one, there are guys who said, I will not play in Montreal. So, if that's the case, I mean, it's unfortunate the situation that you're in, but maybe you have to make these sorts of deals to get the guys that you want and give up more than maybe you want to. I think Nashville won the deal hands down, and that says a lot, given that Shea Weber's coming back the other way. But I mean, again, just a couple interesting deals. Brian Campbell signing a really low dollar amount in Chicago.
You know what that is? It's all Phil's story. They want him to go back to Chicago.
He wanted to be there. He turned down double or more of that contract to leave Florida.
Yeah, which is dumb. Because I mean, Chicago he played with for a bunch of years, and that's just a feel-good story to me. I saw that right away at the one-year deal. I mean, is he going to bring some value to the team? He might. But that's almost like a Tikkanen story with the Flyers. I mean, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some other deals.
I didn't like the Matt Martin deal at all. The Matt Martin to Toronto deal feels a lot like the Brandon Pruss when he left the Rangers to go to Montreal. Yeah. Identical deal, 4 years, $10 million. These guys don't score goals. Okay, just call it what it is. I mean, they're fourth-line players. When you start paying your fourth-line players $2.5 million a year, what does that tell your third-line players and your second-line players?
Yeah, that's
true.
And
when you start looking at how you structure your salary, your third line. Well, Matt Martin got 2.5. I want 4, and all of a sudden your top guys. Well, I want 12. I mean, you just start opening Pandora's box when you overpay like that. Yep. I mean, it's understood in free agency that you will pay more than you normally would, but I'm sorry. I mean, $10 million for Matt Martin is just that's crazy.
Ryan White leaves the Flyers, heads to Arizona for $1 million. Don't know why that happened for, but whatever. Boyd Gordon to the Flyers from Arizona. All right, well, let's see. For the money you gave Boyd Gordon, and I don't know the guy from Adam, he probably could have got me out there on the ice and probably could have scared around a little bit more. He had 2 goals last year?
If that.
2 goals.
If that.
2, folks. Not 20, not 30. 2 freaking goals last year, okay? I don't know. Is there any other moves that you really jump out at?
Well, the one thing that I think kind of got lost too, just on the timing basis, was Keith Yandle going from the Rangers to Florida, signing a really long-term deal there.
Yeah.
I love Keith Yandle. I would not have given Keith Yandle that contract.
He went to play with Yandle for a couple of years. He wouldn't leave Phoenix, and he was with his family. He didn't want. They had to crowbar him out of Arizona to get him to the Rangers. Now he's free as a bird. Now he goes wherever he wants. Now no issue. I'm going here. I'm going there. It's all good now.
I think the interesting part is to see kind of what happens now with trades, because a lot of those bigger name free agents. I mean, there's a few left. Chris Russell still available, and the funny thing is we're saying about big names and Chris Russell. I mean, this is what you have now in a league where a lot of those young guys keep getting signed early.
Chris Russell.
Chris Russell. Interesting for a team maybe like the Flyers to see like if they want something in goal. Because, again, they're so... I mean, Fleury's still out there. Bishop's still out there. I think Bishop would be a phenomenal fit in Dallas. I think if they find a way to get him over to Dallas... The goaltending in Dallas is a problem. If you watch the Sports Box, you know we've talked about this. They need a guy in there who's going to be the guy. If Tampa would take one of those goalies back and a sweetener for a guy like Bishop, maybe lower their cap hit, I think it's a slam dunk deal for both teams.
Yeah. Oh, and we have breaking news at the Sports Box. We have an updated deal. Break it. Can I have the freaking deal? Yeah. Come on. What are you guys doing? Come on. Freaking guys, you know? What do I pay you guys for over here at the Sports Box? Can't even get freaking updates. Oh, Brian, you got it on your screen.
We're gonna get a call from HR on that.
It's freaking believable, these freaking guys. Bunch of freaking ass clowns over here. Jesus. Go ahead, you got the deal over there.
So it looks like Jason Demers, defenseman from the Dallas Stars, has signed a deal with Florida Panthers. 5-year deal, $4.5 million per year. Another no state income tax. So that's an inflated deal. Listen, Ekblad, Yandel, just added now Demers. That's a really good defense.
It's a solid core.
There's nothing you can say about it.
Yeah. Well, we will see. So that's all the time we have for the Sports Box. Keep an eye out for some other new stuff coming. Our NBA special coming soon. Well, the NBA follow-up to the draft, so we'll talk to you about
think this was money? We still talking about
Oh, you're going to get...
Insanity.
Bring a barf bag for that because you're going to get sick. So remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters, Brian.
It's right here. As long as you don't throw something at somebody.
Well, maybe. So heads up. So it's the only opinions right here. Take care. Have a good one. See ya.
Don't forget to subscribe.